Okay, hi boys and girls. I'm going to hang on for a second. I have some strange things happening in my office, and I'm not sure why. Weird noises from the other side of my monitor. I'm waiting for the echo.
Strange things happening.
There we go. There's my echo. Anyway, so it is January 3rd. 17 days left of that son of a bitch in office, so we can get rid of him. But not much going on today. I don't think anybody's joining me. It's Sunday. Wow, Sunday. That's cool. What the fuck is wrong with this camera? Anyway, I thought we'd just go over. So yesterday, Otangelo rage quit because I asked him to be brief. Because he was going on with his usual teaching us biology, and I just have a problem with that, I guess. So I thought I would go over this. And this is he made a book length post on this video. I mean, this is just one comment, right? And so I thought I'd go over and look at it. And at the end of it, I replied to him and I said, Otangelo, could you do that again, but be brief? Because he's not brief. Never brief. Hi, Ian. Echo, let me know if you want to beep, beep also. Oh, am I echoing? Wait a minute. No, not anymore. Is my audio good? Because we've had some problems with the microphone again with the wash machine noise. So let me know if it's not okay. Anyway, so codes are the product of a mind, which is, okay, so that's a blatant assertion. A thinking entity outside the cell has to be responsible for the double dose of the DNA and the protein, which use different languages and yet can communicate with each other. One would never dare insist that a random ordering could create the Morse code or the Braille reading method. That would be utterly irrational. Yeah, well, it would be utterly irrational because Braille and the Morse code are human inventions. And it would be utterly irrational to think that a squirrel invented them, a human invented them. So I don't get your point. So all we have here is assertions. The protein, as it turns out, has what biologists refer to as sequence specificity. No, I've never heard that one. Yeah, the sequence of these amino acids determine its specific function. Well, no, not really. There are, it's underdetermined. There are many, 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 many different proteins that do exactly the same thing. And in fact, some reactions in the cell happen without any enzymes or proteins at all. They just happen because they are energetically favorable. They happen at a low rate, however, and enzymes speed them up. So if the function of the system as a whole depends critically upon the specific arrangement of the parts, then it is a code. Now, what's actually a code is when you have this relationship between two different sets. So you have set A, and then you have something that picks out pieces of A and assigns them to set B. And that something in the middle is arbitrary. And I write it as a function because it is a function. And that's all it is. So we can call that a code, but we're stretching it a bit because the human idea of a code is that we're trying to keep something secret. We're trying to cipher something. So so far, he has said nothing to back up codes are the product of a mind. If we're going to call everything a code, or we're going to call things in nature a code, like life, then we can't just say codes are a product of the mind. We know that somebody created the Morse code and created the Braille code. We do not know that somebody created the protein code, or the trinucleic acid code, basically. Let's see, both proteins and DNA have a language. No, they don't. A language is something spoken between two mammals, mostly. Well, we could stretch that and say insects have a language. Crickets chirp and the females respond. If you want, but we're stretching it. Language means humans. It's what humans do. So does a computer program. Who gives a fuck? We have languages. It was pretty obvious we were going to create a language to communicate with computers. My name is Henry, written in English, and then they have code. Then he goes ahead and he tries to show ASCII code, which is all fucking wrong. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Now, let's see here. Is that 16? I think that one's right. I don't know. I don't know why the last bit is always uppercase, or always 1, but it doesn't have to be. That is an M. That is not a lowercase y. Lowercase y would be 1, 1. I don't know why the fuck these people can't get ASCII right. It's not that hard. Anyway, but these have complexity and specified information. More. Okay, this sounds like something Otangelo would say. Or at least this is what I hear when he starts talking, when he starts going on and on and on. Good afternoon, James. Oh, I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's going to be a short one, I hope. I can go eat. Let's see. The existence of a code automatically presupposes 2 minds. No, it doesn't. Another assertion. But a minimum 1 mind. No, it doesn't. Another assertion. If you're going to call DNA a code, we don't have any evidence of a mind inside the cell. Have you found a mind inside the cell, Otangelo? Has any biologist found a mind inside the cell? No. We haven't found a mind in prebiotic rocks either. There's no evidence of a mind anywhere. Oh, then he goes on about Voyager. Of course, yeah, this is what I mean by being long-winded. You don't have to fucking hammer your point home over and over again. You're making a blind assertion. A lot of text is not going to get you out of the fact that you made a fucking blind assertion and you're not backing it up with any argument. I guess you think this is an argument. It's not. Included many images portraying on the golden disc. Yes, because we're trying to communicate with other intelligent life forms that sort of think like us, and they might be able to read the numbers. Presupposition. There we go again. Presupposition. It's kind of a big word for you. To the mission of the Voyagers, that any alien that by chance might come upon it would assume that the random ordering right. Yes, okay. Any alien that is kind of like us would come upon it and say, yep, something like us must have made this because something like them did fucking make it. The complexity of the hardware of the Voyager satellite, who cares? Okay, and here we have a quote from Stephen Meyer, which I'm not going to read because Stephen Meyer's an asshat and he is he's biased. He's trying to prove something. RJ. Hey. And let's see.
I'm still in my jammies.
Yeah.
So I hope nobody minds that. I'll turn my camera off.
Nobody.
So what's up?
Well, going over just nothing really today. It's just that I decided to have these every day at 2:00. So I'm going to stick to that, I guess. Even if I have nothing to say, I'm going to try to say something. I'm turning you up a little bit. Okay. So Otangelo did this mega post. These are the comments he does. He rage quit on us last night. Mm-hmm. And he rage quit because I'm waiting for Demeter.
Yeah, he talks the way he writes, the same way Sanding does.
Yeah, that's all
same
I
way
said.
I do. I talk the way I write.
Yeah. I guess I do.
Demeter.
Hey, RJ. Nice to see you.
Let's talk origin stuff. The point of whenever they've been bringing up the genetic code, I've been trying to get any of them to address why there are variations in the code and why amino acids have lots of codons and others don't. And I haven't spotted any of them thinking about that. Have you?
No. All they come up with is this stuff over and over again. I had a problem with his mention of specificity down here. From the thousands of possible combinations of amino acids, relatively few. That is an assertion. Okay. As it's turning out, it looks like relatively many can do specific things. I don't know.
Well, we've got about what 500 natural amino acids, and we've got 20 some odd that are the ones that are used prebiotic or in biology,
Yep.
and that it's relevant. And Demeter can correct me if I made a mistake on this. It's my understanding that most of the amino acids that are most common in proteins are the ones that are the easiest to synthesize prebiotically.
Well, it's a little so it's a little bit more complicated in terms of what about the chronology of assignments of the different amino acids. So, but you are correct in general. Yes, there is in the field of origin of genetic code, old school and new school scientists. So the old school scientist says that usually the most abundant amino acids, which is approximately 10 amino acids, are involved in the first codon formation or involved in the very first processes of assignment for the codons. And later on, there is a late amino acids which has been arise due to the metabolic biochemical reasons which is already developed. The new school, which origin of genetic code says, is that yes, there is some kind of idea about more abundant or less abundant to be important. But if you think about more accurately, the fact that some amino acid is more abundant doesn't make it more important at the beginning. Sometimes some amino acids which are less abundant might happen to be more important for the origin of genetic code than super abundant amino acids.
And the same thing is taking Luca as benchmark when there would probably have been, I may have had a big run, tens of millions of years of competing systems before the one that eventually became Luca took over as the dominant one.
Exactly. Luca is a very late stage. When you have Luca, finally, already almost, not every single, but almost the entire code, genetic code is already formed.
Yeah.
By the Luca when the Luca is formed. So between Terra Darwinia, which is the very first Darwinian evolution happened, and a Luca, you have probably maybe several 100 million years of evolution.
And there's plenty of time. We know that the signs of cellular activity by about 3.8 billion years ago, but unfortunately the fossil isn't detailed enough to get the nuts and bolts inside. So that's, you kind of presume bacterium, but that's still certainly a couple 100 million years after life was probably kicking off. I think just about everybody agrees that as soon as the late heavy bombardment settles in and you no longer have such catastrophic vaporizing of oceans and all that kind of stuff going on, that basically life kicks in. And that is circumstantial argument that whatever the biochemistry of it is, it might be almost inevitable given the amount of material that's available to it.
Yes, if you not calculate, but just think about the very quick and early life formation. So all of the evidence shows a very almost a few million years. I don't know. Nobody knows exactly how long took to form the life, but it's very quickly after when the Earth it settled down and let me say chilled down. And by itself, this fact by itself shows that whatever it's happened must be very highly probable event.
Yep.
Another thing that impressed me about the genetic was the very specific nature of the mutations to it. So we got, and I apologize if I'm cutting in on the thing, but Renard despises me. So,
Yeah.
If I'm not coming through clearly, I may have to. Renard hates the RJ. Anyway,
we just thought that was the way your voice is. We thought maybe you had
I'm also shrill and annoying. So, I know up the yin yang and all the ones. But anyway, the thing that intrigues me that of the ones where there have been codon reassignments, they are always, and these are largely in mitochondria, but there are some bacteria that do it too. They're always in redundant codings, never in the singletons. Theoretically, a designer, if the coding was completely arbitrary, could have taken one of the isolated amino acids and converted it to a different amino acid for the codons, and then replace that with one of the stuff from the redundants. But there are no examples of that. And that's because code wasn't designed.
Also you can think about very frequently a reassignment of the codons happened in stop codons.
Yeah.
So in some bacteria, stop codon is just because they had 3 stop codons. One of those stop codon could take place for amino acid, for example.
Yeah, and even the canonical code, one of the stop, I think it's the stop codon that also codes for one of the amino acids, which is luni.
Yeah, I mean, all of this. If you think about although the genetic code is extremely interesting, it's extremely obvious as a kind of very well fit up process. It's still, you can see process of development, even in the later stages of evolution. For example, after Luca, as a reassignment of the code, and also it's okay. A few people actually knows that if you investigate the genes for amino acid synthetases, you will see that not every single bacteria actually contains every single gene for the amino acid synthetases. The amino acid synthetases are the enzymes which actually in the structure is embedded the recognition between the correct amino acid and the correct anticodon.
Yeah, that's where the code is.
Yeah, this is the actual code. That's why we usually used to say that the amino acid synthetases are the only proteins that actually knows the genetic code.
Right.
But not every single bacteria contains all of the amino acid synthetases. Some bacteria does not. So what does it mean? That means that it depends on the conditions, depends on the particular way of conversion of the amino acid. Some of the amino acid synthetases might be missing. How that happened? If it's designed since the beginning, everything.
Right.
Stupid designer.
Well, he says only a master designer could have imagined this. I think as codes go, that's a first grader code. I mean, a 7-year-old in Cub Scouts could come up with a better code than the codon assignments.
Yeah. Another one is why there is a tyrosine instead of uracil for DNA. What's up with that?
What about tyrosine?
Well, the fact uracil isn't used in DNA, it's only in the RNA version. And that's probably a clue that there's something interesting going on with uracil. That's the reason why it's running the show over on the RNA side.
You meant thymine, the one that creates the bridges that are, the bridges are problematic with 2 thymines together. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is also additional. I mean, also, it is very clear that because of the desoxyribonucleotides, which is in a DNA, the DNA became more stable. Chemically, it's more stable. Because of this hydroxyl group. And just because of this reason, it's took over to be a DNA actually carrier of information. Just to hold the information.
Higher that never left. An endosymbiotic phenomenon, frankly.
Exactly. So also you can think about something else which is very interesting. Uh, the isoxy. So just stop for a second and think about. There is a nucleotide which is the isoxyuracil. See what I mean? So uracil, it's not common for DNA. Understand?
Yeah.
You have thymidine, right?
Yep.
So therefore you should not have desoxy, such a desoxynucleotide. Understand?
Nope.
You don't understand. So
I
you
don't.
have 4 nucleotides for the DNA: adenine, thymidine, cytosine, and guanine, right?
Yep.
And the specific is the ribonucleotide for the RNA. It's a ribonucleotides, which is contains, those are not desoxynucleotides. They are ribonucleotides. They contains instead of thymidine you have uracil. Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Therefore, you should not have desoxyuracil. Understand?
Okay.
So the
Or you don't
fact we
understand?
have it is saying something really about a chemistry, right?
Do you understand what I'm talking about? So ribonucleotides have one hydroxyl group in a ribo place in the ribose more than desoxyribonucleotides.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
This is happened in the very last step during the biochemical process of transforming. So all nucleotides comes as a ribonucleotides. And just at the last step, you have removing of hydroxyl group and
Okay.
makes the desoxynucleotides. But the specific for desoxynucleotides, as I said, adenine, thymidine, guanine, and cytosine. But not desoxyuracil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but in fact, in reality, there is such a nucleotide, desoxyuracil. And also this nucleotide is incorporated in DNA once in a 10,000 nucleotides. How that happens?
The sneaky little hitchhiker that's been lurking around there that occasionally shows up at the party.
So
Exactly.
so
Exactly. And the cells developed a specific way of removing and replacing, so fixing this problem by using RNAs, which is called RNase H, usually, which recognize this guy, and just remove it in its place, it coming the correct desoxynucleotide. So how it's possible such a bug to have if you have exactly a very good management and very good designer that is taking care of those kinds of things.
yeah, the master designer.
So this is one very simple and very obvious fact that everybody should know.
Now,
They came up with the term kludge, but it's something that's been applied by some to a system that's very clunky but works really well, that's accumulated by all sorts of accidents and accidents.
Hello, RG. I have some kind of problems to hear you well.
Yeah,
everybody does. Yeah, you're kind of bothered.
StreamYard is evil for me. I don't have nearly as problem with Zoom, so I'll bug out. I enjoy having the chats and that, but it's annoying if I'm.
So you don't have this problem with Zoom?
No.
So if I switch,
well, Zooms work just fine. So it's not entirely the internet thing. There are others that I've heard also have problems with StreamYard, and the more people that are in the StreamYard, the funkier it is.
Yeah, I'll see if I can. I've got to figure out how to stream from OBS, and then I can use Zoom.
So it's not just me.
It's
I'll say this: the thing that is so impressive about Origin of life research in the last 20 years is the realization of these wet dry cycles playing out as the moon is really close and tide cycles are way faster than we're used to now. And then the other point that Demeter represents, which is the recognition that there could be RNA peptide interactions that are going on in ways that are pre-biological, the things preceding things, rather than the simplistic RNA world or a DNA world or whatever. And of course, because they can't figure out there's any to do.
Exactly. So I still have a difficulty to hear you, but I got the point.
And we're getting most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Top Dog said he's going to teach me how to hook up OBS, because if that solves the problem, that would be amazing. That would be cool. So we'll try that. I do have better luck with Zoom on most. What's that?
I'm amazed that this works at all.
I know. Well, StreamYard has been screwing me in a number of different ways, actually. So,
anyway,
it's been
I'll leave
freezing
the studio so people can straighten up. But it was nice to talk to you, Demeter. The origins question, since creationists are obsessive about the origin of life, it's important that people like you are in the field to be able to respond to them real time and effectively, because otherwise they just prance around and go, well, origins of life and therefore God.
If you invite me sometime, I can come in your channel and try to talk more about origin of life.
Yeah, I had Jackson on last week, and giving the link can be a pain in the ass. I can't recall if you're on Twitter.
Did you ask if he's on Twitter?
Yeah, I was asking whether he's on Twitter or not.
I don't have Twitter account, but
it's a handy platform for me because I can go into my Twitter feed and pull the link and drop.
RJ Twitter.
Yeah, I'll it's a handy little platform. There's a lot of scientists that function on there. They put forward their current work and keep track of things. So I've been following. There's probably easily a good 100 or more scientists who are cutting edge workers in anthropology and a whole bunch of other fields, and they'll stick their latest work up there, links up, and keep everybody's heads up. So it widens the boundary of my ability to relevant information. Anyway, I'll stick in the internal chat my Twitter thingy. It doesn't cost anything, so anybody can do it.
Okay, Nestle asked you a question, and I'm trying to find it. Was it in chat? Let's see. There's also interesting aspects of DNA replication. I don't think is that a question? Oh, is that the question, Nestle? So yeah. Demeter?
Looks like one.
They also
RNA primers is a leftover of an RA world or RNA peptide world.
Oh, okay. So no. Yes and no. So what I mean, first of all, the RNA primers are required for the DNA replication, and this is absolutely true. This is fact. It is 100% sure you need RNA primers or any primers in order to have DNA-dependent, DNA template-dependent DNA replication. What does it mean? This means that evolutionary RNA comes first, and the replication of RNA is the first event. That's what does it mean. It's kind of going toward RNA world hypothesis, but it's not absolute requirement to be true for RNA world. It just said that RNA comes before DNA. So, and it's very important, this fact, because in order to have RNA primers initially, so this is come with the enzyme in a eukaryotic system. It's called primase, alpha primase, which generate a very short primer, approximately 10 to 15 nucleotides. And this primer is removed after that. So in the process of synthesis. Yes.
Done on the prebiotic circumstances for the origin of RNA primers, or are they kind of like thought of as one of the bigger afterthought that comes along from another process?
I didn't hear exactly your question, but it points to the more ancient system, which was more RNA replication system, which when at some point you have mutation where the desoxynucleotide comes and they start to be involved in the making a DNA. At that moment, of course, enzymes took over, which is RNA replication enzymes can took over and continue the process. And this is very well understandable. If you're talking for RNA world hypothesis, the best argument for RNA world hypothesis was the existence of RNA ribozymes. I mean, ribozymes is RNA. So that was the most substantial and the evidence for RNA world hypothesis. However, if you look from my papers, RNA peptide world hypothesis, you have a very natural explanation why you have ribozymes at the beginning. And also the first step, which is, we call it RNA peptide world, it's resembled to some sort, it's very look like RNA world hypothesis. The only difference is that the genetic code is already in existence at that moment. In classical RNA world hypothesis, there is no genetic code initially. You have only RNA entity which replicate itself, but there is no code in existence. The difference between this entity and RNA peptide world, which I'm tend to much more agree, this is my hypothesis, you have situation where most of the RNA actually in that period of time do the job. It's involved in some enzymatic processes, and that resembles RNA world, but it's not the classical RNA world hypothesis.
Of the idea of codon associations, a possibility that initially it was a way to stabilize these stretches of peptides in prebiotic systems, and then eventually it reached a stage where the coding system then became indispensable as a stabilizing system that eventually becomes the code.
Exactly, because you already have a Darwinian evolution in action. Once you have Darwinian evolution in action, meaning the information, which could be just a few nucleotides, meaningful actual nucleotides. Once you have Darwinian evolution in action, you can explain the more advanced moment, the more advanced upgrades which is coming. So that's what it is.
And it should be reminded to everybody that as far as I know, zero anti-evolutionists play any role whatsoever in any of that research that's ongoing.
Research right now for Darwinian evolution, there is nothing like that at the moment. There is no research in order to be demonstrated in experimental demonstration for beginning of Darwinian evolution. There is no such experiment at the moment.
No, but what I mean is the people that are doing the work, you're doing the work, and Jack Sosak and so many other researchers, David Deemer, that all the people who are researching and actually doing work in the field to figure this out, none of them are anti-evolutionists. They don't do any of the work. There's no sweat equity there.
Yeah, they're evolutionists. I mean, everybody that I know, scientist, is evolutionist in origin of life research. The only problem is that there's no money for this
Oh
research.
yeah.
too much.
This is not nobody's going to go. Hey, I'm going to make my name and fortune by looking for the origin of life. No,
Exactly.
it's
Think about
basically
think about you can think about how many PhD by defended their research in origin of life. I don't know that many. Actually, I don't know any. so, I mean, at the moment, right?
major life researchers together in this meeting room at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, I didn't
Not a
hear.
huge number.
So, if you're talking about the actual research in terms of origin of life, the research which is usually the prebiotic chemistry research is undergoing at the moment. And this is the research in Harvard, mostly in Harvard, and also in Canada, probably some laboratories, and in Europe as well. I could say maybe in India, some is doing that research, but that's it. Prebiotic chemistry mostly, nothing else at the moment. So, RJ is disappeared. Oh,
We did. Okay. Well, he drops out sometimes. Anyway, let's see. So on Otangelo's comments, I just wanted to point out, he says by the common designer, and you notice he capitalizes designer, and then he capitalizes master designer, and then he says evolution has no answer. And that just indicates his bias. He wouldn't be capitalizing that if he weren't a Bible thumper. And and that's the interesting thing, is that they have this, they can't understand why we don't see this, because they know of a designer that designs DNA and universes, and we don't. And we can't cross that bridge with them for some reason and convince them that we don't have that same knowledge that you do. Like, they believe they have some knowledge that we don't of the Bible. And then they try to convince us with science to convince us that there was a designer, but they can't make that case because it's backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the experiment for intelligent designer is kind of missing.
Yeah, and the knowledge of an intelligent designer is missing for the average atheist. So we have knowledge of, so we have K of knowledge of a designer, and they have a source for them. They already have, and their source is simply a belief. And then, okay, from that, they're trying to tell us that it infers, okay, because they have knowledge of designer, it infers that DNA was designed by God. So DNA is God, basically. and what they do, but what they do is they try to appeal to our knowledge of all of science, and then they try to prove. So you see how their argument is circular? They try to prove this, so that, they try to prove that DNA had to be designed by God with science, but that isn't where they're starting from. So they continually fail to make the case. They fail to make that inference from, proposition A to B, that, it's a code, therefore God did it. But then they think they're going to do it with science by hammering us over the head with science, that if we learn enough about complexity, that all of a sudden we're going to say, oh my God, you're right. There is a God because life is complex. But they just can't get it through their heads that we think differently than them.
Yeah, but your thinking right now, it's assume that they have a genuine approach.
Yeah, they start with this.
If you have a genuine approach to science and to the question, you eventually will get there. But you don't have genuine approach. You're just blocked at the moment. Once you start to discuss something that is in development, something that evolves, it's blocked. I can tell you, right now, for example, in front of me is the same letter from Otangelo, for example, which is copy paste of millions of sources. But anyway, so there is so he, like every biologist, is agree that the genetic code is very important, blah blah. That is absolutely vital to origin of life. Everybody is agree for that. And he said the genetic translation system provides objective physical evidence of the first irreducible organic system on Earth, and from it all other organical systems follow. Moreover, this system is not the product of Darwinian evolution. That's what Otangelo wrote down. Now I have to say, at that moment, prove it, right? Prove it that it's not product of Darwinian evolution.
And that's what they
And-
have to do. And
he will say to me the same thing. So let's be objective here. So he will say to me, okay, you prove it, right? And I can say, I can prove it by providing a mechanism. I'm providing a law. I'm providing the actual physical chemical interactions, which logically follow this system to be developed into much more complicated from very simple system. So it's not direct proof so far, but eventually down the road, I'm sure we'll have experiments which will demonstrate the beginning of Darwinian evolution in tube, in vitro, in the laboratory conditions. So, and he will, I'm absolutely sure that he will never prove how, for example, the cells appeared out of nothing. I mean, not nothing, but let's say out of blue, directly synthesized in the best form. Well, that's it.
yeah. Yep. So an enthymeme is basically a hidden premise, and they load everything up with that biblical belief. So this part here, this the source of their belief or their absolute faith in God is what they work in, what they don't state in the beginning of every argument. So I mean, they would have to state God exists there. So that's their first premise: God exists. And then they go on, and I don't know how to explain to them that I reject their first premise. That they have to prove that, but then of course, like I say, it goes wrong in that circle where they think if they hit me over the head with enough cell biology, I'll say, "Oh my God, you're right. God does exist." But so I mean, they're trying to prove God they're trying to prove God to us by beating us over the head with basic biology, and they don't understand why we're not getting it like they do, because they don't understand that they have this enthymeme, that they have this first premise built into everything they think, everything they do, how they when they read biology, cell biology, they see God's great hand in all of it, and I fucking don't. And I'm sorry, but I don't. So
Yeah, and the argument for reducible complexity always come because everything, whatever it is seen, must be as it is. It's never will be changed.
yeah,
Or
and
if
then,
it's changed a little bit.
and if that doesn't work, they beat us over the head with this. Oh, you're an atheist, so your life is meaningless because you're not going to live forever or whatever.
So I mean, the funny thing is, just 3 days ago, probably, Otangelo posted link for paper, which is the structural basis for amino acid synthetases, which recognize the amino acids. So, and this is kind of very interesting paper, which for some reason it's a 2020 paper. So it's a relatively recent paper, and for some reason escaped my attention, probably because I was kind of very busy this year with different things. So I didn't know about this paper. However, when I went to the paper and start to read the paper, first of all, the same team that published this paper was published before another data, which I cited in my paper. So I know this team, but I didn't know this particular paper. So, and when I went,
where did you see that paper?
So, and this paper was pointed to me, to us, actually, not to me particularly, but to us from Otangelo.
Oh,
For some reason, he thought that this is some sort of proof for intelligent designer or something. And when I went to the paper, it's a wonderful, good paper showing how, how the interactions, how actually the amino acid synthetases recognize any particular amino acid.
was
What
it in
kind-
that long email chain that he did it?
No,
Okay.
it was in one of our
Docs, okay.
yeah.
I
So
probably have it somewhere, but
I'll show you. Just give me 1 second to pull it out. So I'll
Okay.
show you the paper. And in this paper, there is nothing anti-evolutionary. I mean, there is not even a single idea for something.
I've had that experience where Maddox will flash a paper up and I'll start reading the paper. It's like, oh my God, this paper is great.
It's
you know?
great and it's very well evolutionary. So, okay, I opened the paper at the moment. So I'll show you just for a heck of to see the paper.
It's almost like they're in the trenches there, and instead of shooting at you, they're throwing you ammunition. They're throwing it over. they're trying to hit you in the head with their ammunition by throwing it, and we catch it and throw it back.
Yeah. So this is the. Can you share this?
I can.
I mean, no. I'm sharing. You just allow me. Yeah. Okay. So this is the paper, and it's a very nice paper. It's a very nice paper, and also this guy is very clearly talking about the evolution. They're talking for how. So here you can see the tRNA synthetase, and they should recognize the amino acid together with activated amino acids, which is ATP activated amino acid.
Okay, over here.
And you can see very clearly, so they're talking for the different class 1 and class 2 amino acid synthetases. They're talking where they took the data. Here, for example, is the amino acids shown clearly, the different interactions which are involved in the recognition of the amino acid. And also you can see how these interactions could be grouped it depends on the amino acid. It's a very nice study. Actually, I didn't finish yet. So here also, I'm still reading this paper. That's what I'm trying to say. So
22.
yeah,
Right.
it's a very recent paper. And also they showed clearly the volume necessary to recognize the specific amino acid.
Yeah.
You see the different approaches between class 1 and class 2 in the recognition. There is a very interesting tables here which shows exactly which amino acid from the structure of the amino acid synthetases is responsible for the recognition of the particular amino acid. And also you can see a pattern, you can see grouping, you can group them. And also they make so many different analyses. And finally, they come to some discussions about the genetic code formation. Formation.
Yeah, yeah.
Emphasizing formation of genetic code. And also the pairs of amino acid synthetases. It's a very interesting paper. Of course, you have to Also here you can see the mechanisms. They show it what kind of mechanisms are involved for the evolution of the amino synthetases. And mechanisms like gene duplication, horizontal gene transfer, and those kinds of things, and mutations, co-evolved, evolutionary, and so on. So this is not at all argument for intelligent designer. So I'm
So Otangelo has a critique of that paper on his cat's board. I asked him if he published it, but I'm being an asshole, so I asked him if he published it. I understand I'm being an asshole, Otangelo. Since a set of amino, tRNA synthase has to be, here's like a little bit of a response. Fully set up and authorized. Why? Does the paper say that?
no,
No.
and nobody said that. This is
Right.
only in the mind of Otangelo.
So I guess we probably don't have to read any more of his criticism.
How to be fully set up? Who said that should be fully set up?
That's what Otangelo's criticism says.
And there is no even in this paper they said that it's a graduated development of these interactions. They see how, probably not how, but very clearly explanation by gradual development of those kinds of interactions. So there is no such a thing as fully developed at the beginning. And the sad thing is I'm telling this, I'm explaining, I already explained to Otangelo maybe about 100 times the same thing. So I think by now he's supposed to understand that there is no initial fully setup of everything.
So he's asking if you believe anything you read.
No.
Not the Bible. That's one thing I can tell you right now that I don't believe. That when I read the bits of it that I did,
That's why you don't believe in everything that you read. You just see the argument, you see the experiment, you see what is logical. Is it provided some sort of forces, interactions? Is there make sense? Those kinds of things. And after all, what does it mean, belief or not belief? In science, we do not use the term belief.
Right. I don't believe anything.
It's just demonstration. So show me. Yeah. Show me. This is the only answer. So, and for example, if I believe in something and tomorrow someone perform experiment which completely reject whatever I believed, so what's the moment here?
So this paper is taking an entire tree to print out. 17 pages.
Yeah. If you're talking about the Bible, I think it's a very interesting book. Definitely, it's a subject of investigation and research of the folklore, historical perspective. I think it's a very interesting because have a parallel with the Mesopotamia cultures, Asian cultures, and also have a parallel in the folklore everywhere. It's also interesting to read about the Bibles which are not part of the current. I mean, I'm seeing the text, the ancient text, which are not make it into the Bible as well. It's very interesting.
Yeah, there's
this area is very interesting. I like history. I like folklore. I like stories, mythology. I like a lot mythology. To me, this is very, very interesting subject. But that doesn't mean you're full.
Right? I really like the comparisons, or what do they call it? An analysis of the Bible from a Buddhist perspective, looking at it from a Buddhist perspective, particularly the New Testament. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff there.
Interesting, yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm mostly like I would gravitate more to the Buddhism philosophy than the Christian philosophy, because, for example, the concept in Buddhism for the emptiness. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So probably only Leo can talk about those parallels, and maybe Danny also. He can talk about emptiness.
There's a parallel that in how consciousness and the mind disappears on analysis, basically.
Exactly. And also don't forget that, for example, Dalai Lama, he provided courses of physics and quantum physics to the monks. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
If you provide courses for evolutionary biology to the to the modern to the Christians, that will not be the same, right?
No, it wouldn't go over as well.
And by the way, there is something else. Only the Protestants are so, for some reason, are so kind of offended by evolution.
Stick up the ass, sort of offended.
Yeah. So I'm coming, for example, from Eastern Europe, and we have Orthodox Christianity there.
Yeah.
The Orthodox Christians are not at all in the business of anti-evolution. They simply don't care. I mean, don't pay attention of those things. So for some reason, the Orthodox Christians, and also there's many other Christians which are not, simply don't try to go deep in that issue. Even the Catholic Christianity, they also, as far as I know, the Catholic Christians admitted the evolution. La Maitreya, of the first mathematician and physicist, he is a Catholic, which actually is discovered the Big Bang and provided the mathematical logic about the Big Bang. So you can be believer in God and be scientist after all.
The difference, I think, between the more spiritual-based Christianities and the Protestants are that the Protestants presume that they know God, that they know more about God, and Buddhist spiritual Christians do not presume that they know God. They put God off into the same way physicists approach what came before the Big Bang, or what Big Bangs. We don't know. So they have this, and as soon as you admit that you don't know, all of a sudden there's this great release where you realize you don't have to know, and that kind of relates to emptiness and the empty mind.
I mean, think about how strange is everything. So how it's possible something which is coming from biology and science to be in a controversy with your belief in something like a written text 2000 years ago. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me to have such a fight against this.
There's a kind of brain damage. I think it's Capgras syndrome. If I'm pronouncing that right, it's CAP.
Kafka.
Is that how you pronounce it? Capgras? Capgras?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, this guy had brain damage, and he woke up and he told his doctor. His wife came to see him, and he argued with her, and he says, "You are not my wife. You are not my wife." Well, then his wife called him on the phone, and he talked to her and said, "Oh, I'm so glad to hear from you. You know, why haven't you come up and seen me?" And she said, "I was just there." And he said, "No, that was not you." And then he went home and he showed the doctor his desk, and he said, "This desk, this coffee stain here is exactly like my desk, but this is not my desk." It's a kind of brain damage where you fail to feel that you know something, where you completely don't know. It's really interesting, but it's a part of your brain that presumes that you know something, right? And you latch into it. Like, I know this coffee cup is, in front of me right now, that sort of thing. But there's a part of the brain that does that. But this guy, this poor man, everything he saw visually, he didn't believe it was actually the thing that was presented to him. So his wife could only talk to him on the phone. He couldn't see her because he didn't believe in his visual information. He thought it was a fake, an imposter. It's interesting. Anyway, but it's about, this feeling of knowing that absolute, like these guys presume that they know God is this, tinker creator. They presume that they know where on this line, to 4.5 billion years ago, they know exactly where God intervened. They won't tell us, but they know that he didn't do it, 7 billion years ago. He did it somewhere in here, and they know this. And they have the opposite of Capgras syndrome, where they assume they know shit that they really don't. And that is.
And if you think about days, I don't think the problem is more like a scientific problem. And it doesn't matter. At some point, I'm thinking it doesn't matter how many, so how well proven is the case. You can prove everything. Let me assume you have something in the laboratory conditions. You mix something and white rabbits start to jump out from that. That's not the idea in science, in the evolution, but just for the heck of the comparison, for the heck of the argument. So let's assume you prove that you can do it, just everything de novo life to somehow start to occur. Even in that case, I don't think they will admit that, because simply there is another barrier. And this barrier is somewhere in the mind, somewhere in our feelings.
Yeah.
So I don't think, for example, the case for Otangelo, for example, he is extremely smart guy. He knows a lot by now from biology, and he really reads something, even that he sometimes doesn't go in deep inside very much. He's still very well knowledgeable in terms of overall biology. So by that point, he's supposed to understand that you should not have controversial situation between whatever it's there, whatever it's in proven by experiments, and your belief. You have to figure it out why should not be controversial in that case, right? To put in another sentence, if something is correct and if another thing is correct, they should not controverse each other. So it's up to, of course, this is just a way of thinking.
The thing about what a belief is in the brain, there's a belief is a system in the brain that was should we say it was designed? it evolved to help us deal with things very, very quickly and very decisively, right? So in the center of your brain, you have this basically this limbic region, which is in charge of a whole lot of hormones like love hormones and anger hormones and all of that. And they distribute like lawn sprinklers to all of your cortex, which is out here. This is your thinking part of the brain. So what happens, like when you have Capgras syndrome, there's damage down here, and that you never get that feeling that you know. But if for normal people, we have these things that we are absolutely sure that we know. Like when we open our bathroom door, we expect to see our bathroom, and we know this, and we do it very easily and very decisively, and we get this constant feedback. And the interesting thing is that if you opened your bathroom door and instead you were at the edge of the Grand Canyon looking over the Grand Canyon, you get this cognitive dissonance that goes on. It's really interesting. You get this like feeling like somebody slapped you in the brain. and then you reevaluate. But that's a mechanism. But these guys and people that believe in the bullshit, that who was that last president that we had for the last 4 years? I can't remember his name, but people that believe that kind of bullshit, they have this absolute strong connection right here, where when they get information from this part of their brain, okay, it automatically feeds that belief back and starts these juice squirters, and they have this absolute. They know so for certain, and because they know for certain, they do not have to investigate any further. So they stop investigating, and that's what happens. That's what happens when Otangelo reads a paper, is he knows for certain what the answer is, so he doesn't have to investigate. And I think methodological naturalism assumes that we don't know. We don't know for sure, right? So we're going to look. We're going to keep looking and looking, and we're going to look for things that we do know, like chemistry. We kind of know. We believe in chemistry, all of us, I think, and so we start there. But the thing about knowing God is anti-Buddhism. Buddhism, you understand that you cannot know the nature of the universe or the greater picture.
Yeah,
and
just look yourself first.
Right. Yeah.
So for Otangelo, I'm suggesting you some sort of let me say theistic evolution, which is also widespread. Theistic evolution. Let me say, you can have sentence like this, for example, which is kind of very well acceptable among many scientists as well. So you can say something like, the God created all living things by using evolution, for example. What's wrong with that? I mean, I don't understand. If you want to stay in a theism, in the pure theistic spiritual view, I don't see problem with this sentence.
Yeah, why not push it back to there and just admit that you don't know.
Or just you don't know. So the fact that in the Bible is written something, it's okay, but this is a text 2,000 years old. So you can assume also that there is, let me say, that these people that was written down on the God's kind of dictation or something, that inspiration from the God, they written down a Genesis of the Bible. You still can assume that everything could be just symbolic, not details. And also the Bible, obviously, it's not a magazine nature. In the Bible, there is no graphics, there is no calculation, there is no experiments there. So the purpose of the Bible back in 2,000 years ago, it's obviously was kind of different, not with the idea to provide you a scientific knowledge. So therefore, you can pretty much, without be guilty to yourself, to say, okay, evolution is a fact, and God, whoever he is, I don't know him or her or whatever it is, just created everything using the evolution.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that? I mean, it's acceptable.
I spent like 3 months on a Christian forum trying to get with fundamentalist Christians, trying to get them to see that. And I claim to be an evolutionary theist. They would have thrown me off if they found out I was an atheist. I spent 3 months trying to argue with them, and I never got anywhere. I just couldn't. I couldn't understand why they couldn't accept pure beginning of the universe theistic, creation, which is, just pushing it back on the line, and just accept the fact that you don't know God. God is so omnipotent, so magnificent, so sneaky and clever that there's no way you can ever know when he did what or how he did it. And
if God is like this, if the God is so powerful, he definitely can use evolution. Right?
Yeah. It's like they don't think their God is powerful enough to do it, to create a universe that could create life like us. I guess what concerns them is they like to get into the scripture. They like to believe in the fall. They like to believe that the world is coming to an end, that there's going to be an apocalypse. They have all these dark things. And if they start, the argument that creationists make is that if you don't believe the entire story literally, then you're a heretic, because you're not
bad. You're a very bad guy. You're
reprobate or whatever.
Therefore, yeah.
But Otangelo said that I was doing a personal attack on him when I said that he's stuck on this belief. I don't think it's a personal attack. I'm commenting on the structure of your arguments. Your arguments are so bad to a non-believer that I mean, if you're going to convince a non-believer with science, you can't just keep telling them about factories and Morse code. You have to actually show how it's impossible physically. I mean, and to do that, you can imagine what a project that, I mean, abiogenesis is a gigantic project, figuring out how it happened. Can you imagine how much worse it would be if we had to prove that it didn't?
Yeah.
I mean, how would we prove that it didn't happen? That something is impossible.
So at the moment, Otangelo said, no, Dimitar, evolution is not a fact. It is unsupported claim. You never supported it, Dimitar. It's all just bullshit, probably, or something. So I can say right now, at the moment, Otangelo said there is no such a thing as cancer.
Oh.
Right now, Otangelo says there is no such a thing as cancer. And there is no such a thing as domestic animals.
Okay.
That whatever he said is equal to the same sentence.
Yeah.
There is no such a thing as cancer. Never happened. According to Otangelo, that is the case.
The magic Spurgle who couldn't ban slavery commanded witches to be killed. It was off on vacation during the Holocaust. But ribosomes, that's on his big list. Oh, that's excellent, James. That's precious. I don't know. Anyway,
so let's ask one scientific question, Otangelo. So, and that's very amused me very much. So, obviously, as a Christian, Otangelo believe in the resurrection of Christ, right? Something that happened 2,000 years ago, and he's absolutely trusting this. However, what is the scientific evidence for that? So how it's possible you to believe in this one and not to believe to so many hundreds of thousands data in the science today, but not believe in those data? You believe in something which has happened 2,000 years ago. It's not proven at all to be the case. So how it's happened that? How it's possible to happen?
Kind of picks and choose. So Smokey Saint didn't know Otangelo was a yak. Anyway, hang on a second here. Coughing up another hairball. Anyway, Dimitar.
Yep.
Jerry Penna and I think a few other people have requested that we do a session with just you and me moderating and asking questions and go over your papers one at a time in order again in more detail. You want to do that again at some point?
I'm open for this, and actually that was idea 2 months ago. For some reason didn't happen.
We are a wily bunch. Immutable is calling me. Why is he not in? What are you calling me for, asshole? Come on in the chat. Oh, Jesus.
I'll step out for 2 minutes and I'll be back.
Okay, good enough. So, Top Dog, you're the only other one I got. And yeah.
So, did you want to know how to do Zoom?
Yeah, we should do a private hangout. Are you available tomorrow at all?
Yeah.
What time? Like early?
Yeah.
Okay. What's early for you?
Anytime after 7.
Okay.
Or it'd be
8 p.m. for me.
let's
How about 8 p.m.
see.
Central?
It'd be
Would that
yeah,
be-
I guess.
That would be you're Eastern, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be 9 p.m. for you. So yeah, let's do that and try to figure it out. So I can because that's interesting. I have had trouble with StreamYard, and I'm paying $40 a month for the fucking thing. And I mean, if I can find a way out of it with so OBS, and you can use OBS and Zoom only. So is it? So you bring people in through Zoom and display them with OBS?
I guess so.
Okay. That's what we got to figure out.
I haven't really done it myself. I'm doing it right now. I got it to work. I just have to show you.
Yep.
I don't know how to do it other than OBS so far.
Oh, okay. So but do you bring people in with OBS? How do you do you
Oh
bring,
no, it's Zoom does it, and then it's just like StreamYard. It's just that OBS does the
okay.
casting to your YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, and then there are scripts so that you can quickly locate them on screen, so that you have a screen for like 6 guests and 8 guests or what, as far as I understand. But I got to look at the scripts. I guess I should get on that tomorrow because I got to do something about this. This is ridiculous. StreamYard really doesn't add anything, and what really pisses me off is that you can only have one screen at a time. So if I want to switch between my notebook and video, I have to go through all this bullshit, and I've reached out to them, and they don't seem interested in making improvements like that. They have their base, I guess, their gamer base, and they don't care about us. I don't know.
I think Zoom might be even harder than StreamYard if you're using OBS to a lot more programs than
Yeah, well, there's
things to set up.
You can set up scripts with, but I'm not sure about Zoom. You can set up scripts so that you can go from StreamYard, because StreamYard is a browser thing, to, I don't know. Anyway, but we got to kick some things around, but I don't know.
We'll learn together.
Yep. Okay, so we'll do that tomorrow at, I'll write it down, 8 p.m. And, Demeter, are you back?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, you're back. Okay. I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna end for the day. Oh, Danny's back. Danny's back. Oh my God! Now Danny could run my stream out for another 4 hours. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to do that.
I think the longest I ever been in a voice chat is 16 hours or something like that.
15 hours? Okay.
16.
Fuck you.
Yeah, 16.
Okay. Fuck you.
But that's when I was a Christian and I was debating you atheists on like Discord.
Oh my God! That must have been terrible.
Yeah, there was they had a lot of difficulty, but there were some people that were really, really hard for me to respond to.
Okay. But I'm gonna end the stream, I think.
Okay, so Mike, I'm always open. Just let me know when you decide it, and I'll be on a live stream, and we can discuss Origin of Life.
So are you working?
Yeah,
Is that
tomorrow I have to go to the university back.
Okay, so weekends. So we'd be doing this on weekends, probably.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to shoot for next Saturday, and we'll get that done. It's one of the things I have on my whiteboard back here, list of things to do. So we'll get to that. But okay, so we're going to end this for the day. Goodbye, all out there in the world. If there is, of course, Danny doesn't fucking believe in that, so I don't know.
What did you say?
No, I was just fucking with you.
No, but what were you? I don't know what you said.